Morning. Hope all is well. I'm actually driving into work again. Yep, another morning, another beautiful day. I'm blessed to be awake. And of course, well, it's so important that we remember that, not many people were able to get up this morning. Yeah, but as I think back in the days, I go back to my days in Jamaica. You know, a lot of people do not understand what it means when someone say, you know what, I grew up in Jamaica and I understand certain things. Yes, Jamaica is a wonderful place. I remember going to school and you had to have your khaki uniform and all that sort of stuff. The girls had their own stuff wearing and everything. And back in those days, things were just ideal. You would say to yourself, you know what, you wish you had this and you wish you had that, but that wasn't it. You just were happy to be around your friends and you had some wonderful friends, some friends who were creative. You played police and thief, girls played dandy shandy, boys played so many other things. The little boys, and they had these also these games that they would play. But one thing that particularly interested me at that point in time was really lunchtime. Lunchtime in primary school and high school was just an event by itself. Yes, an event by itself. Because you know what? Lunchtime, it was like a celebration. It was like some people were wondering where they would get food from. Others were fighting to be in the front of the line to get food before the actual bell went. Because back in those days, there was some level of lack of organization that as a little boy I struggled to reach the front of the line. So I had to ask a big boy to help me out, and that big boy might have 10 patties to buy, which created a problem because he alone can't manage so much patties. But because he has the ability to push to the front of the line, as a big boy, you'll be all right. So sometimes you had to have these friends that would help you along. But those were the days. Those were the days in lunchtime, and luckily, if you couldn't get the first pick to reach the lunchtime, sometimes you had to satisfy with maybe dry goods, a pack of biscuit and a suck. Yeah, because you never make it in time. So you had to take what was left. But back in those days too, they had some wonderful food. Yes, rice and so back in those days they had a special time, special lunch. Yeah, man, those lunches were served in the wonderful plastic plate. Yes. And the staple of the day was rice and white rice, of course. Sometimes it have a little, it's kind of soft. And then you had rice and you had curry chicken. Curry chicken, and mainly it was the back part because that was a cheaper part. But let me tell you this, when you get your curry chicken and rice and all that gravy and that oil run over it and it has a little nice little taste and everything and you start eat, woo, yeah man, it was wonderful. And you have a little beverage, they give you a beverage and you drink and you feel good. I'm going to go back and talk about sometimes when people never have any lunch because that was a kind of specialty for some people. When you finish and you try to wash out that plate, it was the hardest thing because plastic and that chicken oil and that oil that they use, listen man, it was the hardest thing to wash out. I remember one day, and this is no disrespect to this teacher, I was in teachers college. You see, lunchtime was special even in teachers college. So I went to this place and I was teaching and doing my internship there. And before I reached there, the woman that was coming to invigilate us told us to let the school know that she was coming for lunch. The chicken back and all that sort of stuff was still good. She remembered it and I remembered it. But that was in teachers college. Just remember, lunchtime in a school was special. Very special indeed. And of course, Many people just enjoyed it. They enjoyed having it, eating it. But back in those days, there were some students who never had food to eat. So for me, I never say I never have food to eat, but sometimes I was afraid to take out my food because my food was not any posh food. People never had steaks and that sort of thing. But one thing they allowed me to have is something to carry to school. Sometimes I don't even eat the food, but there was someone else who tried to eat it too, you know. But that was good food because it was like a vegetarian food, you know. But no, looking back on it, I should have really had all of that, you know. Eventually, when they realized I wasn't taking my food to school, you know, they gave me lunch money. And the lunch money that we had would be piled up into the days of the week. Yes, you had a row of silver. Yes, they called me Silverado back in Herbert Marshall because every time I had silver, I never had paper money because the silver was outlined for me to spend accordingly. So I would take up my silver, which is coins, and I would spend it and get my food lined up and everything. And of course, sometimes I didn't even buy food because I never get the chance. Back in those days, there were children who didn't have food, and sometimes they know those who carried food and they would take the food out when people not looking and eat. Yes, yeah, man, they would steal from people's bag and that sort of thing. But you know, looking back at it, poverty allows people to do certain things. Back in those days, you had your suck, you had your bag juice, and not to mention those bakeries that sell the wonderful patties. Children would leave their school and go way down the road to get even a nice hot sugar bun. They like the sugar bun, you see. There was a place they called Hilton Bakery, and when they made those hot sugar buns, whoa, it was something to really get. Not to mention the wonderful patties. Back in those days, it was fun. Lunchtime was an exciting time. You hurry up and eat your food, and you make sure you have time to play. That was after you had your food. But for some, it was a solemn time because some people just could not afford it. So as we look on and what we can achieve today, now today, in a certain age group or category, and you've made it through that time, now you say to yourself, I don't want to eat all that sort of stuff because you put out weight and here and there, right? But back in those days, children had fun. Lunchtime was a ceremonial sort of engagement. You play, you enjoy, you talk to your friends, you tell them about the latest stories, and they had fun too. So when we look at lunchtime in Jamaica, it was a special occasion. And all the children around enjoyed it. No one will tell you that they had sad days. And for those parents who made the cornmeal pudding and gave their children to eat, big up yourself. And remember, there were some children who had to go home every lunchtime to get their food. Yes, that was sometimes a mile down the road in rural district or more. But notwithstanding, many of them had something to eat. Although there was some shame in what they were bringing, everyone can recall that back in time in Jamaica, in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, lunchtime was a time for engagement, a time for socialization, and a time to physically engage in some play and just have fun. That's what I remember about lunchtime days in Jamaica.